We're 10 sessions into these tutorials now, so there's only really 3 to go. And what we've done so far is we've done a lot of modelling, we've put some lights in, we've put some texture, we've combined objects, but what we haven't done is animate anything yet. And you're probably thinking, I thought this 3D Studio Max was an animation package, and you're absolutely right. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at using the timeline to animate stuff. So by the end of this session, you'll be able to identify the timeline, understand keyframes, and add keyframes to a timeline. So once you've got used to using the timeline and putting keyframes in, you'll be able to animate stuff very easily, and you'll soon get used to how it works. So let's crack on. I'm going to draw your attention to the bottom of the 3D Studio Max interface now. And if you look, there's a bar here which goes from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and if I scroll along it carries on up to 100. You can change that to any number you want. Now what these indicate are frames in an animation. So if you think about each one of these as a still image, you might have seen programs showing you how traditional cartoons are made, with somebody drawing one picture and drawing a slightly different picture and drawing a slightly different picture, and when they're all played in order it looks like a cartoon is moving. And basically that's what each one of these is. So frame 0 is my first picture, then I might go to frame 1, indicated by the fact I've got a 1 in the box here, and this has moved along here. So frame 1 will be my second picture. Frame 2, because we've started on 0, will be my third picture. Frame 3 will be my fourth picture, etc. And it just carries on like that. So you can imagine that if I was doing something in a traditional manner, I would move stuff within my environment for each one of these frames. So I would go frame 1, position my objects where I wanted them. Frame 2, move them slightly. Frame 3, move them slightly. Frame 4, move them slightly. Then when I played them, it would animate them. But that's a bit tedious. And what Studio Max does is it gets around doing this by using a concept known as keyframes. And what keyframes are basically you saying that this is what I want this scene to look like on frame, in this case 0. It can be any frame you want. Then I might say, oh, okay, and then at frame 30 I want my scene to look differently again. So I'll put another keyframe in there. So I've only got 2 keyframes, one at 0 and one at 30. And then what 3D Studio Max does is it animates all the bits in between. Okay, so it'll get it from one keyframe to another keyframe, and basically that's the secret of animating in 3D Studio Max, and it's fairly easy to use keyframes. Okay, we'll do them in a bit more sophistication in a moment in the next session, session 11, but I'm just going to show you the quick and easy way to put these in. And we're just going to come over here, and you'll notice that there's various symbols and boxes, and the easiest one is auto key. So I'm just going to click on auto key and my timeline will turn red. There, just above it, yeah? So that's turned red. And you can see that what I've got in my scene here is I've got a box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over to the left. Okay? And then I'm going to move my timeline to frame 30, and I'm going to move it over to the right. And you'll see that what's happened is I've put 2 keyframes in there now. You've always got to have 2 keyframes. You've got to go from one place to another. Okay, but if I now scroll my bar back and forth, you can see that it animates between the 2. Okay, and that really is the secret of keyframes and the secret of animation in 3D Studio Max. Okay, so there you have it. That's how Studio Max animates things with keyframes. So once you've got used to using them, and if you've used keyframes in other programs, you'll be away anyway, you'll be able to animate stuff in no time. So have a play as always, do the quiz, and then come back for the second part of this animation tutorial, which is session 11, which we'll do next.